Hello everyone, Storm 101 here. Today we'll be tracking a potential big-time winter storm that may happen across portions of the Southern Plains, eventually getting into portions of Arkansas, Mississippi, portions of Alabama, eventually getting to the Ohio Valley, into portions of the Northeast here. These areas will be the areas to watch for possibility of a good amount of snow, or for some of these regions and some of these places could see a decent amount of ice as well. There could be another ice storm threat with this setup here with our next system. Let's go ahead and get started with the National Weather Service Watch Warning Advisory display. And we do have ice storm warnings still continuing on across southeastern Kentucky. We still got a little bit of an ice storm going on over there. Kentucky got hit pretty decently hard at some spots. There's some areas I picked up about 3/4 of an inch of ice. Here in my house, I've picked up a half an inch of ice, which did cause some power issues in my area. But there's other places that get hit harder than that, and we still got quite a few people out of power. There's a good chunk of people in Kentucky out of power as of right now, which hopefully they could get their power up soon because there's going to be another storm that'll be coming in that could bring in either more snow or more ice, potentially. So Kentucky got decently hard by this ice storm. Not only there, but portions of Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi. I actually don't think the Laurel Hall Valley did not get as hit as hard as some other areas. They actually got some lesser ice amounts. Um, but I know Texas is getting involved with a pretty good ice storm across those regions there. You get those are what the winter storm warnings are for. You got winter weather advisories across a good chunk of Virginia, West Virginia. Those areas will be experiencing a decent amount of snow, mixed in with a little bit of ice. There's going to be a chance for possibility for maybe another mini winter storm. Fast would go by, a few inches of snow is possible, but the main focus is going to be the Southern Plains, and this is going to be quite a widespread event here. So let's talk about this. So we're going to start with the European model, and you can see here, this is what I was talking about here. Could be a little bit of a decent snowmaker across portions of the Central Plains into the Midwest, into portions of the Great Lakes. Some of you guys could get yourself a few inches of snow. Then you got this system down here, which could bring in a wave of freezing rain across portions of the Mid-Atlantic. Also, a decent amount of snow for portions of the Ohio Valley. Not too big of a deal there. But as we get into Sunday morning, you got widespread snow across most of New Mexico, Colorado, Kansas, and Oklahoma in the Texas Panhandle. Got quite a bit of snow going on. This is again going to be a widespread event. And as we kind of get into Sunday night, we got some pockets of heavy snow across a good chunk of Oklahoma and Texas. You got your low starting to develop in Mexico. This is eventually going to start to move to the east, eventually turn a little bit more northeastward here, going right through the deep south into the Carolinas. Could this be a nor'easter? Maybe. We're going to see about that, but let's just go for the European model. So then this is when we get into Monday morning. There's actually two waves. You got one wave going across Kentucky there. That's a pretty good band of heavy snow going across the state of Kentucky. Meanwhile, as you go back down into Texas, you got another wave of heavy snow. But around Houston, some of these regions here across the south could see a decent amount of ice and sleet in some of those regions, and that's something we're going to have to watch. Then you start to see the system start to get ramped up in Alabama here. This is eventually going to move through the Carolinas, bringing a pretty good swath of snow across portions of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. Then we got to pay attention to this zone right in here for maybe another chance for some of these regions could see another ice storm, which the European model says it could be a nasty one across the mid-Atlantic region here. Some pockets, some areas getting some heavy freezing rain. We're going to see. The models are going to be too warm in this region here. We're going to see how that's going to deal with. That's really going to depend on that warm air aloft here. So it could be a little bit more of a form of sleet, maybe a little bit of snow mixed in, but we're going to see about eastern Kentucky and western West Virginia. because the ice storm that's going on right now across some of these regions here, it's going to be sticking around. So that's going to make the surface temperatures colder than what the models are going to be showing. So this could make a difference on the forecast for eastern Kentucky into southern Ohio. Well, not southern Ohio, but maybe into portions of West Virginia as well. We're going to see about that, depending on that warm air aloft, is what it's really going to depend on across those regions. Then you can see how it moves up to northeast. Still quite a weak low, but it still has a lot of moisture and cold air to work with, so you still got a pretty big shield of moderate to heavy snow across those regions there. That passes by, then you got another system to watch right here later in the weeks. Now this is getting a week out, so getting pretty far out, but models are also hitting on this one here as well, which the GFS, the European model, actually do have a pretty good agreement with. And if this is correct, there may be a chance for severe weather across the southeast. It's going to be something to watch here pretty closely here over the next few days here, but we'll mainly focus on the system coming in Sunday, Monday, into Tuesday, maybe into Wednesday for some other regions. So let's take a look at the European model. So now this is pretty much throughout the entire event. Look at portions of Oklahoma and Texas. Got some places maybe getting close as 10 inches, which if I'm correct, some of the National Weather Service offices snowfall forecast, I believe in Norman, somewhere in Oklahoma, not completely sure, may have a chance to see 10 inches of snow. It is a possibility. We'll just say they're the least here. There's winter storm watches in this region here. But look down around, close around to Houston. Could be some snow mixed in Houston. It's a possibility. Arkansas getting decent amount of snow, 5 to 8 inches. Then it really starts to pick up as you get into the Ohio Valley. You can see Kentucky, 5 to 8 inches. Some of those places. Same way for southern Indiana. Most of Ohio, 5 to 8 inches. So this is just going to be a pretty widespread event across a lot of these regions here. A lot of these people could see 3 to 5 inches of snow. Meanwhile, there's could be some other places that could get into some of these heavier bands that can get close, at least close to the 12-inch mark in some of these places here. We'll have a better idea on it as we get higher resolution models in, which does not go for the entire event yet, but it's probably going to take a day or two to get to that point. Look at the Northeast, widespread 8 to 12 inches of snow. This is going to be some good news for a lot of people that like snow across these regions here, especially these guys here. These guys have been pretty much in the snow hole throughout nearly the entire winter. These guys here only seen an inch or two of snow in less than that so far this winter. This actually may be their chance to get a pretty good winter storm out of this, which is a pretty good possibility. And then you can see here comes the second wave coming in. You can see here it really adds up some of those snowfall totals as well. But that's going to be for more of a different video again. And there's going to be some uncertainty with that. Here's the GFS model here. So you can see here, it's pretty much the same as the European model. So you got really good agreement between the European and the GFS, and it's also nearly the same way as for the second system here. So you got a pretty good confidence between the GFS and the European model. If we look into snowfall totals and the catch error amount, you can see here some of these places could pick up, you know, take a look at Oklahoma, for example, and Panhandle, Texas, a foot plus in some spots, even up into portions of Kansas and Nebraska. That's a pretty good snow. Even across the Northeast, widespread a foot of snow. Portions of Kentucky, 5 to 8 inches. Similar situation for Indiana and Ohio. Portions of Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas. This is just a widespread event here, which I don't think not a whole lot of people will be complaining about this. This is going to be heading into for a lot of people. So let's take a look at the Canadian Mall. So there goes your first wave right there. And here comes your next snowstorm. It is much weaker here than some of the other models, like the GFS, the European model. It's not as impressive, but it still shows a pretty good snow band. Look at this snow shield. Look at this snow shield. That's a pretty large snow shield. You pretty much go from the Vermont or New Hampshire and New York border here all the way down to central Texas. That is a very large snow shield. If you can get under the snow shield, you can get a decent amount of snow, especially if you're closer to some of the heavier precipitation, which, if this was a higher resolution model, it probably will show that. There could be quite a bit of snow for some of these regions in here. You can see here, that's a pretty good band of snow, and then there's your next system to watch right there. So the KMO is a little bit weaker, but I think it's eventually going to trend to the GFS of the European model at some point at least. If the consistency continues, which there's a decent chance that could happen. And this is a look into the Canadian model. You can see where we have that huge snow shield. If you could get under it, um, especially when you get into the Ohio Valley, when you could have snow for a longer period of time, you can see some spots could get at least close to the foot mark for a lot of these regions here. So, and it's mostly light to moderate snow. It's not like heavy snow. If it's heavy snow, these numbers will probably be doubled than that. But this is definitely something we're gonna watch here pretty closely here. You can see a pretty good widespread snow, possibly a swath of 5 to 8 inches from really central Texas all the way up into portions of Maine. I mean, that's just a huge swath of quite a bit of snow. And here's the icon model with this. See here, pretty good amount of snow. Now, this does not indicate freezing rain or anything like that as well. And you can see here, it shows a pretty good hit of snow, really, for northern Louisiana, Arkansas, northern Mississippi, to Tennessee and to Kentucky, and eventually getting up to the mid-Atlantic and northeast there. Again, it does not indicate freezing rain, but I guarantee you there's a pretty good swath of freezing rain. Which there could be a decent amount of ice accumulations within some of these regions here. We're definitely going to watch for that ice storm threat for a good chunk of these regions here. Could be a major issue with this system here. So this system could cause quite a bit of problems later down the road. And the icon on does not, it gets pretty close to going for the event. But you can see here, look across portions of Oklahoma and Texas. Places could get close to a foot. But again, you got widespread 5 inches of snow, really anywhere from southern Texas all the way up into the Ohio Valley here, which this model typically keeps the snow numbers pretty low here. I'll probably imagine it probably be a little bit higher in some of these spots, but we'll see about that. But again, pretty widespread snowfall event becoming pretty likely with this system here. We got a very good agreement from the Euro, the GFS, the Canadian. I mean, the Canadian's a little bit weaker, but still shows a pretty similar setup like the other models, and pretty much the same with the Icon model as well. This is just a pretty good setup for quite a bit of snow, especially for a lot of these areas in here where you can get snow for a pretty good period of time, and same way here as well. Let's take a look to what the Weather Prediction Center thinks of this. So this is the chance for exceeding a quarter of an inch of snow or sleet. And you can see there's a high probability here. Now this is day 4, which is Monday. You got 70 to 90% chance of that, which is a pretty high chance. Keep in mind that. Then the light blue, well, this blue here, right in here, you got 50 to 70% in this dark green, 30 to 50, which I know my writing is bad on here. And then this lime green, this is 10 to 30% chance, which is still a pretty decent chance, a little bit far out as well. If you move into day 5, it starts to shift here, which I can see now they've recently updated it now. They had the probability a little bit more in this region here. Now it's more focused across southern Indiana, northern Kentucky, into central Ohio, where they have some places. This is a pretty high percent for day 5. A 50 to 70% chance. That's a pretty good chance to see snow or sleet at least a quarter of an inch this far out. So they got pretty decent confidence of that. But you also notice here how widespread this is. You basically go from around Austin, Texas, all the way up into portions of southern Maine. That's just crazy to think about here. I mean, this area has a chance to become a pretty major winter storm when you think about it with this. And then going on to day 6, your risk shifts up to the north, and this is a very high chance for day 6. That is a 70 to 90% chance of some of those higher elevations. So, pretty impressive percentages just to be on day 6. You don't see that often. Then on day 7, where that next system starts to come in, they even have a pretty decent 30 to 50% chance. You don't see that happen often either. So, this is a very active pattern here for really the Severn Plains into the Arctic, the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley, the Mid Atlantic up into the Northeast. I mean, this is just a pretty impressive pattern here, and there will be a chance with a setup like this. Some people may have a snow depth, which means basically how much snow you got on the ground or whatever from multiple systems over time. There could be a snow depth of possibly 2 feet, maybe, we'll see. But there could be quite a bit of snow depth across some of these regions here. The potential is there for a setup like this, but it's day 7. It can always change. That's Thursday, by the way, of next week, which is 1 week away from now. And let's take a look to their 6 to 10 day outlook here for temperatures. And you can see here that you got a pretty high probability for really the Severn Plains up into portions of the Midwest, the Great Lakes. Pretty good probability, but a good chunk of the United States, mostly blue. That's actually pretty impressive. In a very small area of a slight chance of being above normal, 33 to 40% chance of being above normal for Southern Florida. And that's it. That's the only orange on this map. Pretty impressive. And if you look onto their precipitation map, oh yeah, by the way, this is February 17th to the 21st here of February. You can see our above average precipitation along the east coast here. You could get some of these systems to go up something like this. You could get multiple chances of snow around this time period. Above average precip across the northwest and dry for the central and the southwestern United States as well. And this is 8 to 14 days. Probabilities go down, but it's still a pretty decent probability for 8 to 14 days. This is a 50 to 60% chance of being below normal across these regions. And again, very little orange or yellow, whatever you want to say, into some of these regions here. You can see the northern plains are starting to warm up just a little bit. Same way for the desert southwest as well. And if you look at precipitation, it's now starting to become more of a La Nina pattern. Dry across the south, a little bit wet across the northwest and the northeast. Becoming a little bit more like a La Nina pattern, which that's what we're currently in right now. And this is their hazard outlook for 8 to 14 days. You can see here, this blue here, that's a moderate risk for well below average, light blue, slight risk to be well below average. And this dark blue here, that is a high risk of being well below average. Then this area right here, this is a chance for there's a slight risk for heavy snow, even for the mountains of northwest as well, which is interesting. And that may be a chance for high wind. Trying to look down here and see. Moderate risk, slight risk, heavy snow. Yeah, slight risk of high wind that got highlighted right in here. Yeah, slight risk of high winds, so that's quite interesting for the northeast. That may be an indication for maybe some nor'easters to come. So this gets to show you that this pattern is not over yet. So eastern United States, you're in for a pretty decent ride over the next few more days to get multiple chances for some snow and maybe even some ice storms, unfortunately, for some of these regions. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you guys like this video, hit that like button If you really do like my channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, hey, put a comment section down below. I'll answer you guys' questions. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.